Keep it rock steady. 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 Keep it rock steady.
Okay, listening to the Mouthcast, the 75th edition, would you believe, and backstage at the Brudenell Club, where tonight space rock improv group Trans are performing, and from Trans, Bernard Butler.
Hello.
Again,
Yeah.
Jackie McKeown is the lead singer in Trans, and you produced his band 1990s album a few years ago, so I'm guessing that's where you first met.
Yeah, it's where we met, yeah. Jackie, I mean, I don't think he'd describe himself as the lead singer or either, actually. We chip in, both of us, with everything, really. So it's not really like we've got any lead, anything, actually. But that's where I met Jackie, yeah. I was producing 1990s, yeah.
That was the first time that you'd worked together, but the idea
Yeah.
of actually making music together, how did that
I mean,
come about?
we just kept in touch after that, 1990s, I guess, sort of wound down a little bit, and we just kept in touch. We used to just keep in touch, literally just texting and stuff like that, just when he came down to London, and always sort of talked about, oh, you know, if you come down, we'll have a mess around, we'll have a jam, you know, or we'll make a record in a week or something daft like that, you know. And he was coming down. It was literally like one week, and he said, oh, I'm coming down next week. And I said, come down to the studio, we'll just have a mess around. We had a mess around for like a couple of hours with me playing drums, him playing guitar, and messing around, and really, it was fun for about half an hour, and then after that it was really not very much fun. And he got a friend of his to come and play drums just for the next day. That's how we started everything, really. And we did that, and that guy didn't work out really, and he couldn't do it or whatever. But we got somebody else, Paul, who is now in the group, and who I knew. That's how it started, really. Didn't really plan to form a group, if I'm honest. You know, didn't really sort of say, right, let's form a group and form a manifesto and stuff. We didn't really do anything like that. We just started playing, and we got a bass player then, and then we got another bass player. And each time we played, we just, because it was at my studio she'd been to, and you know, it works there. It's two little rooms, and we basically recorded everything. We just set up. I mean, the others weren't really aware of it that we were recording, but I was. So because that's the way my studio's set up, the way you just plug in and you can press record, and you don't have to think about it. Like I say, we didn't decide to write songs or form a band, so we didn't know and came with music. The idea was just to play in a very free-form way and just see what happens. You know, see what happens when you put four people in a room and with no ideas, no reference points, no kind of no direction at all.
Put four people in a room, everybody brings their own, not agenda's not the right word, but their own set of boundaries, if you like, to it.
Yeah.
Did you find that the sessions were about breaking all of that down? And
I mean, it's quite uncomfortable at first,
yeah,
because what it is four personalities in the room, and everyone brings their personality to it, and one personality will want to say, hang on a second, I don't know what I'm doing here, or hang on a second, that should change, we should have a chord change here, or whatever, and another personality will be absolutely fine just cruising on it. And all those things sort of work together and contribute to it. I mean, generally the way it worked was that, and it has worked, is that me and Jackie were in one room playing in front of the speakers, and the bass player and the drummer, Paul and Igor, in the other room, isolated on headphones. What's good about that, it sounds a bit odd, but partly what's good about that is we weren't really talking. We weren't stopping and chatting about the songs and carrying on, because it was a bit more difficult to do that. So we tended to just play. We couldn't see them either. So
right.
So we're not taking visual cues either. We're just really working, like I'd be playing and Jackie's playing, and literally somebody would start, like he'd start or with a riff or something he'd had going round, or I would, or whatever, and the next person would follow. I might sort of think, right, okay, I've had enough of this for a bit, and drop out and let them carry on. And what would happen is, normally if somebody drops out, another person drops level. You know, it's a bit like when you're chatting to people in a room and one person stops talking, you tend to sort of lower your voice because you can hear yourself better suddenly, you know?
Yeah.
Or in a pub, you know, when the music's really loud and you're shouting, and then suddenly turn the music off, you realise actually you don't have to shout anymore. It's a bit like that, really. You know, everyone... It's just like that. It's just like that. People come in and suddenly you stop. It's really like that, just conversational. Really like that kind of conversation. It's a good parallel. But we recorded everything, didn't talk about it. There was no talk of, by the way, space rock, psychedelia, noi, krautrock, any of this kind of stuff. Absolutely none of that. I've never listened to any of that music, so it's not on my agenda at all. I've had this all through everything I've done, really. Try and avoid talking about reference points, and people just pick up on something and say it sounds like this, and you just sort of say whatever. It's never normally spot on, you know. It's like this is Suede. People just obsessed with queuing in on T-Rex and Bowie and stuff like that. And when I mentioned that I was actually listening to New Order all the time, people just like, yeah, whatever. They just blotted it out.
They didn't want to
hear it because it didn't work. I mean, with this, it's a lot more to. Generally, we weren't listening to music or discussing it. That's the key to it, and certainly not in the run-up to it or the things I was listening to around doing this, listening to things in particular. I mean, there's certainly a freedom, and that's reflected in a lot of the groups that people are talking about, like Can and Noi and stuff like that, which to be honest, I don't really know that well. Jackie knows it much more than me, but I don't really know that stuff very well. I know the odd thing, and I know there's that sense of freedom in it, and of improvisation and stuff. But if I'm honest, the kind of things that I was listening, the thing I got obsessed with, if I'm honest, which is the ponziest thing in the world to say, but I got utterly obsessed with for about 6 months, was In a Silent Way by Miles Davis.
Right. Which
someone gave to me, and it's just got some beautiful guitar playing and quite freeform playing.
Yeah.
I got obsessed with listening to that all the time. And the way it had not many songs on it, I really like records like that where you get like 2 songs on the side. Like Closer by Joy Division's only got 8 songs, and In a Silent Ways, I don't know how many songs it's got, and I can't think, but it will have like 1 long song or 2 songs on the B-side, and it's basically music without having to be structured as pop songs.
Yeah,
that's the idea, really. You know, just to get away from the idea that it had to be structured pop songs, because I've done that so many times, and that's brilliant. I love it. Done many things like that. Personally, when I do one thing, I tend to want to then look for what's at the opposite end of the spectrum. So that's what attracted to me, the idea of different structures.
So is it the exploration, the possibility of exploration that's in that is what attracts you to it?
I think what it is if when you write pop structures, however much you move around the structures, like where verses go, where bridges go, where choruses go, you know, at the end of the day, they tend to revolve around 8 bars or 16 bars per verse, repeated, another 4 bars for the bridge, and then 8 bars for chorus, and then it repeat those sections. If you took each sections out as blocks, everything would be repeated.
Yeah.
And the difference of what we're doing is that because nobody's shouting out a structure, the structures are defined by the dynamics. So basically, if I drop out, the drummer gets quieter, the bass player might go to a deeper octave, Jackie might switch to something slightly different, then the drums might drop out completely, and that's how the structure changes. And so that defines a new sort of like segment in the music. How that worked out when we're improvising is that afterwards I'd go back and hear things and think there'd be little sections here and there that would just suggest vocal melodies and lyrics, and whenever I heard something that shouted out to me like that I just started thinking melodies, I grabbed that section and thought, right, I'm going to get that and I'm going to put the idea down. But the way it would turn out is you might get that little section where I've got a vocal, and then it doesn't happen again for another 5 minutes or something, you know, and that's the way it was. But the things we've picked have been defined by them being both things that we love musically, but also things that I've grabbed and thought there's a lyric in there, and there's a melody that I hear or something that I can hang on to. That's the way it turns into something that we can play, you know.
How does that translate into a live situation then? Because if you've picked sections out of these improvisations, they are essentially structured songs after that.
Well, yeah, they are to a certain extent. Yeah, it's a hard one, because you've got to then say to yourself, well, how did you do that live? Are you going to improvise it? Well, you can't do that, because actually there's a whole load of stuff that I really want to play now. You know, I can't just pretend that I don't know that riff, because I like it and I really want to play it to people. I really want to sing that bit, you know. But within that, the way we see it is that we've all got cue points. We know where this starts. we know we can do what we want and then feel our way. And then quite often I know that I can come in with the vocal when I feel like it. But once I'm in with the vocal, they know they're changing. And then once I'm finished, then it can drift off again into whatever we want. And then we know there's other sections coming up, but where they come are just down to us visually cueing each other. And
I mean, that must be ridiculously exciting after, having played for 20 years live. It must be something almost entirely new for you in that sense.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's sort of breaking the rules really a little bit, and it's not really. I mean, it's not changing the world, but it's breaking the rules in the sense that you expected at my age, with experience and with knowledge that you've gathered and success. Audiences seem to be expecting you to use all of that to just go backwards.
Yeah,
and
it's really conservative.
Do the exact opposite. Just play the same songs over and over, play the hits, basically, which I find really bizarre. The people who are so talented and have learnt so much that all you want to do is just go back and then just play the same old songs that you did before and just hope that moment happens that you had, when you were 21, which of course everyone knows it never will. That's the truth of it. That I've never been like that. I've never liked that situation. It's just everything I've done in my career. I've moved and always changed. You've got to challenge yourself in some way, and if I'm not true and honest to myself, then I can't expect an audience to have respect for me. That's the way I think about it. I think if I want people to be interested in what I do, then I have to have respect from them. I can't expect that from them if I just advertise it as just going back and playing some old hits for you. It seems bizarre to me that's just such a paradox. You get all this experience and then you just don't use any of it.
Having said that, though, that is an ace up your sleeve that you're about to pull out on behalf of the Bobath Centre, the fundraising gig for the Bobath Centre. Well, two, actually.
Yeah, I am, first of all, with me and David, don't forget, me and David have played many times over the years and nobody's taken any notice of it. So it's not a reunion by any means, because we've never split up and we've always played together. I played together with David in London about a year ago and nobody took any notice of it. So it's a complete myth that's happened. I mean, I think it's a strange thing. It's a brilliant thing that everybody's excited by it, but it's bizarre that it's gathered so much momentum so easily because, we were going to play in a room like this.
Yeah.
That was the original idea, just to play, go to a pub and basically send a hat round, and see what we could do, just to have fun, really. And then somebody said, I think we could do it bigger. And we were expecting to do the Union Chapel. And the agent said to me, look, we think we can sell 400 tickets. It holds 950. But we think if we sell 400, it will look okay and we'll make some money for charity. And we're like, okay, great. And then we sold 950 tickets in 5 minutes. Yeah. So we had to add an extra night, which is amazing. That's extraordinary. I mean, the thing is, I'm doing a marathon. Part of that is, as everybody knows who does marathons and runs and all this kind of stuff, 120,000 people will be doing it, same as me, all trying to raise money, all going to their mates, sending out emails. Probably everyone's getting it at the moment. Emails from long distance relatives begging for sponsorship, and I've done that before and it's really hard. And I just thought, well, what can I do? What can I give people in return? And so that was it. I said to Dave, would you do this for nothing? And he said, yeah, of course, it'd be fun. And then I asked a couple of other people and they said, yeah, we'd love to do it. And it gathered momentum like that. Everyone's just saying, I've got string players who just said straight away, of course, we'd love to do it. Everyone's doing it for nothing. And I hope it's just going to be a brilliant night. Just give people a brilliant night out, And the charity side of it is a children's charity, a charity that a relatively small charity in the grand scheme of things that assists children with cerebral palsy and as well as their parents and their carers. Something that is not massively funded in this country, and there's not many centres for it. And this place is in North London, so it's in my local community. A friend of mine is the director, and I went to visit and just sat with the children, and it really moved me. Yeah, with the work they did. And I've done races before where you're running up round a corner, and you see 5,000 people on the corner waving flags for Oxfam or ActionAid or whatever, and they see you come in, and they all put their flags down. And say, oh yeah, not one of us, let him go on. And it really pissed me off when I've done it. And I just want it really see the appeal of raising a certain amount of money that can make a massive difference to a charity that needs it, rather than a little dip in the water for some of these big charities.
Yeah.
That's what that's all about. I mean, and also, me and David have got a new record which we've never finished, and we will finish at some point. And we'll be playing new songs from that. Songs that people never heard. So it is not a reunion concert. No, I would nail myself to the floor naked if I thought I was playing golden oldies, because it's the most boring thing in the world.
The fact that you're doing that, and there's Trans as well, 2 EPs have been out, the red EP and the green EP.
Yeah.
Presumably there's more to come, is there? There's more studio stuff to come.
Yeah.
So you're doing that gig, marathon, the Trans stuff. It's exciting times, because last time we spoke, I think you were in the middle of producing Frankie and the Heartstrings, and I think you were fairly sort of locked away in the studio. So it's over the last 18 months, you seem to have come out of that shell a little bit. Yeah, I mean, you find if you have to find a reason to do it. Yeah, I never really sort of meant to not play. I just didn't really have a reason to play. People find that really hard to understand, but I just didn't have a platform for it. There wasn't a group like this. I can't go and do this on my own. Yeah, without the other three, and without a specific reason, so I mean, the thing I'm playing with David, I mean, like I said, I've done that before. People just taking no notice. We had a record out on Rough Trade about 5 years ago, and no one took any notice of that either. And I'm playing with Ben Watt. Yeah, which is really brilliant. Hendra. Yeah, his album Hendra, which is out in April. That's brilliant. And do you know what? I think sometimes I'm not really very cosmic about things, but sometimes the stars align or whatever. I don't look at it in a spiritual way. I think you actually put yourself in a position where things happen for you. And I think in my career, I've maneuvered myself into a position where openings might happen in some way. Sometimes you're aware of it, and sometimes you're not really aware of what you're doing, but you're probably talking about it more or out a little bit more, or meeting people without thinking about it, probably because something at the back of your mind is driving you to do it. So you end up doing it. And then that's how it happened with Ben. I was just out, and me and Ben met somewhere at a friend of ours barbecue. And we were both standing there, miserable guitar players, just talking about how much we hated reunion shows. I remember that's the first conversation we had about how much we hated that, and he had no intention of going on tour with Everything But the Girl and banging out the hits because he was too old and couldn't be bothered, and why should he? And we were both saying, well, how do we play guitar then? And I was saying to him, you're a great guitar player. Well, I'd love to hear you play. And he's like, I don't know. And then not long after that, he just phoned me up and said, do you want to come round and just play? And we just played for a few hours and didn't really do much. And then I didn't hear from him for about a year. And then he phoned me up and said, I've got these songs, can I come and play them to you? While he was playing the songs to me on a CD, I just started playing along and saying, is that what you want to hear? And he's like, yeah, that's it, So that's kind of how that came about. Of course, he's also written his book, Roman and Tom. Is that something that's ever...
He's a clever fella, for sure. He's got loads of stuff going on.
Is that something that's ever appealed to you, the idea of a memoir?
No, I mean, only at the back of my mind, probably. It's probably best left there. Far too dark and bitter to bother anyone with. I don't know, really. I mean, Ben's book is actually more interesting than that because it's about his parents. Yeah. It's not a rock biography. Yeah, he's too clever to do something like that because it's tell you about that time we were in Cologne with the guys, and oh my God, we were so out of it, and guess what happened and stuff. It's just, I find it so corny. It's unbelievable. I find it unbearable. People talking to when I tour, if it's funny, people certain place you go to, and I find people start trying to talk to me in that way, as if we're all rockers here, guys. Yeah, we're all just out there on the road, and isn't this crazy? And I'm just like, not really. This is 2014, not 1968. I've got 3 kids. No, I always think you go on stage and then you can be far out and do what you want with the guitar, with your music. Yeah. But you meet so many bullshitters everywhere you go that are just like wasters, just losers, who just always still think they're in that moment where...
The myth of rock and roll.
Yeah, then they just still live in it, except for they're nobodies. I meet them everywhere, and it's just so embarrassing. So no, going back to Ben, I mean, I think he's far more interesting. That's why I like him. He's an intelligent guy. he's written a really fascinating book about his parents, which is an angle that most people probably haven't thought about. How, you know, the idea that you don't really know much about your parents before you're born. You know, it made me think, Christ, I've only got one mum left anyway, and I've never had the chance to find out. It's quite an interesting thing to find out about that life that your parents had, you know, for a long time. And of course, your own children, if you have children, will be thinking, you know, one day might think the same about you. No, he's an interesting guy. I really like being around with him. His songs are very literary, sort of stories as well. It's exactly what I was saying. It's quite interesting going around with him. It's all very mature, but when he's very focused, and when he gets to the perform, he's very focused about how he wants it to come across, who he wants to play with, how it's presented, and the quality of his music, you know, he's very interested in. And I always just love people like that who just don't make any compromises, don't just start bullshitting you about the good old days and all that sort of stuff.
I find that new record peerless, really, in the same way that his debut was 30 years ago, that North Marine Drive.
Yeah.
Was fantastic.
Yeah, a lot of people who are coming to the concerts were the people who bought that record first time round and remember it and view it in the same way. Yeah, no, it is great. It's lovely to hear, and I'm so pleased for him because he's worked so hard on it. Yeah, and it's a genuine. It's very hard to do that, quite an autobiographical thing when you're a solo artist. You know, to do something that's quite inevitably is quite personal, and you have to make it quite interesting without it just being up its own arse. Really, just talking about woe is me and my terrible problems, you know.
We'll round up because I think you probably want to get yourself a sandwich or something before you play shortly. The sleeves of Trans EPs, the whole look of it, reminds me of something that you said the last time we met, which was that when you bought the early New Order singles, you would just sit and look at the sleeves because that was almost part of the music itself. I got the same feeling actually from the Trans sleeves, that it's very important that they're as minimalist as they are.
Yeah, well, you're spot on there. So, yeah, I mean, that's exactly the inspiration. Probably not design-wise, because it's you wouldn't want to start copying Peter Saville, but in terms of the idea of it, that it's sort of enigmatic in a way. You know, it draws you in with as little information as possible. There's a sense of identity. You know, that they're colour-coded. And that they're the same design, each one's a different colour with subtle variations. I mean, we just dreamed of having, just like the New Order records, you see them in the spines in your record collection and they just look brilliant. You want to drag them out and think, what is this? What is this strange writing? I grew up with that. I mean, to be honest, those early New Order records, around the time of 83, 84, what New Order were in terms of the records, the sleeves, and also what they were live, is a big inspiration for Trans. No one's mentioned that, and no one probably will. Again, it will be ignored. You know, that's where a lot of this idea has come from, because my brother Stephen used to be the king of live bootlegs, basically. And when I was at school, he was just we got every live bootleg. But concerts at that time, they'd go on stage, they'd have songs like Thieves Like Us or The Perfect Kiss or something, half formed, not quite ready yet. And they'd play sort of extended versions of them, leave the drum machine going at the end. Mistakes in different lyrics, sort of extended odd structures. The structures would be something where they might start with the drums and then a synth riff would come in, then a guitar and then the hooky bass line or whatever, all sorts of different things, and eventually you might get a vocal. You wouldn't get the drummer counting 4 and then the singer would sing an 8-bar verse. It never happened, and I've always loved that, and I've never seen anyone do that since then. And that's a big template for, obviously we don't sound like New Order, but that's a big template for what we're doing and the way we do it. Exactly that idea that we don't have to just count in and get into a nice, easy structure. And it's also a lot to do with the way they were at the time. When I was a kid, I was so fascinated by them. They didn't do interviews. They didn't go on the TV and mime, and they were largely ignored by the radio up to as far as True Faith. They were largely ignored. People forget that.
Yeah.
You know, True Faith was, that was like 6, 7 years in.
I vaguely remember
I know Blue
Whistle
Monday
Test.
was. Blue
Monday
was
and Whistle Test with
Blue Monday was seen as a novelty record.
Bernard in some incredibly strange vest and sports shorts.
Yeah, I loved
Get-up.
all of that.
It
They were
was really
fascinating.
bizarre.
They looked amazing and they looked fascinating to me. But you couldn't find any information about them. I remember coming home from school, going to my local HMV and going through the N for New Order and S for the Smiths every day, because I wouldn't know when records are coming out. Certainly New Order. Smiths you'd know a bit more, but New Order you just wouldn't know. And you just suddenly like, oh my God, one day there it would be. And you wouldn't know because it didn't say New Order on the front. You'd just be like, I know that's a New Order record. I don't know what it is, what it's called, silver cover or whatever, some strange image in the front. You know, I think what I'm trying to say is these days there is so much information out there. It's so easy to get information on every detail about everybody's lives. And your records and your favourite T-shirt and blah, blah, blah. It's just endless, the amount of stuff. And I can't help but think that there's so much stuff lost that you're not actually focusing on anything in particular. It's quite hard.
Yeah.
You know, and
it's like a porridge of information, isn't it? That's too.
Yeah, it's like the difference between when we had 4 channels on the telly or 3, and now we've got 700, and all we do is sit there and flick. You know,
what you were just saying about the enigma, if you like, the mystery surrounding New Order. Trans having a similar thing. When you first announced the project, it was very oblique, really. The press release was very oblique and quite not difficult to fathom, if you like, but there wasn't a lot given away, is what I mean.
Yeah.
Do you feel that that's compromised, if you like, by the need to put records out and to go out on the road, if you like? People have got to know who you are.
Yeah, I mean, basically, if we hadn't done that, the press release would have said Bernard Butler from Suede's new band. Yeah. Which is just, what I find personally, just a bit trashy and corny, that kind of thing, and you just hope that people can pick up on something from the most pure angle. That's all you hope for. People, just aren't reading anything into it. People always try and read things into me, which I find really ridiculous, because I like such different music, and I've made such different music, but every time I switch to doing something different, people say, oh, that's weird, it doesn't sound like David Bowie. Or that doesn't sound like Marvin Gaye. Oh, it doesn't sound like, whatever. And I just think, well, it's all right to like lots of different stuff and to let that be reflected, in what you do. Definitely on that first record, I was pretty adamant that I wanted it to be purest sort of experience as we could make it, and for short-term loss, I'd hope for long-term gain in it, long-term respect. And I think it worked, because I think a lot of people did find out about it in a really subtle way, by word of mouth, and thought, and were interested by it, curious. And when they did find out it was, the guy from Suede or whatever, and the guy from 1990s or whatever, people were still curious. This time round we've sort of turned it on its head for the second EP, because this is been such on our agenda, people talking about this aspect of it, that I thought what would be interesting is if we had completely the opposite, where we did videos where each member of the band was just themselves, so it was the most open way of presenting yourself. It was the exact opposite, like literally, here is me, it's me, now just look at me for 5 minutes. And we did one for each member of the band, did a song. Equally, people are freaked out by that as well, because again, we're not sort of pouting, there's no makeup or wardrobe, it's just people just sitting in front of a camera. It could be any of us, could be anyone out there in the bar doing it, and it would be just as interesting, probably far more interesting. It's one of those things that in modern life we can make everything as perfect as possible. You can do absolutely anything with audio, film, photography. We can all correct anything, because you learn about these tools, because everyone's now got, iMovie or whatever at home. You think, oh, that's how they do it. Immediately you find out how things are done, how they do that blur effect or something like that. Don't you just find it's lost its magic straight away? You just think,
because everybody...
Now next time you see that on the screen, you'd be like, I know how they do that. It's easy.
Yeah.
You know, and I think because of and that's maybe a shame, but at the same time, I think that it makes me personally want to revolve back to the things that you can't perfect, you know, which is just being a human being, just sitting here like this, you know, this is how I talk, that's the way it is, you know, this is put a crap camera in front of me and look at me, that's the way I am. Basically, our music is it's pretty similar because like it goes back to how we recorded, that we were just putting mics up and just playing. That's just what happened that day.
Having sat through your sound check, everything seemed to have a fairly loose feel, shall we say, in the sense that
ragged. And
so I expect people are no two gigs are going to be quite the same, is what I mean.
Yeah, last night was fantastic in Hebden Bridge. Best gig we've done by far. Audience are great. I think it's magic, really. You walk into the room and it's going to be good when you start. Night before we were in Glasgow and it wasn't good at all. It was dull and sterile, and it was just all a bit too cool for school, quite frankly. It was just, I don't know, it was just couldn't connect with anybody. Felt like we were an exhibition at a gallery, like a light show or something, without lights. So it can be, every night it can be totally different with us, yeah.
Good luck
so
with
who knows tonight?
Yeah.
You can tell me.
Well, good luck with tonight, and you've got a couple more dates, and then it's your marathon, and then the...
Yeah, I'm off with Ben on tour. I'm going to America with Ben, and I'm doing another UK tour with Ben, and doing McCallum and Butler shows. I don't know after that. But we'll probably be doing this through the summer as well. Hopefully this is kind of a springboard to say to people, hello, this is what we sound like. See where we get offered to do festivals and stuff, or things that are interesting, you know, places to play. So hopefully that'll be the plan, and then another EP in the autumn, I reckon.
Exciting year then.
Yeah, it is. It's busy, yeah. Great.